everyone, my name is Alice and I'm an illustrator, artist, and art educator based in Surrey. I did my undergraduate program at Rhode Island School of Design. It's there that I studied illustration, I did some film and animation and sculpture. Basically, I get to try a bunch of different art mediums in the school, and I got really interested in the children's book field. So I've been working on my children's book and also teaching part-time currently. I think ever since I was a kid, I really like telling stories. My grandpa would often sit me on his lap and tell me a lot of stories, and I became a person with a lot of stories too. And every time in life, when I encounter something interesting or something meaningful, I like to write down those stories in my notebook. And those stories becomes inspirations for my art. And I think I am a very sensitive person. I'm very responsive to the world around me. When I go for walks by the beach or when I walk around, there's always interesting thoughts that come to my mind or certain kind of imaginations pop up here and there. So I like to get all those imaginative things onto paper or into sculptures and bring those inspirations from life into my art. I think on a personal level, making art just gives me a lot of joy. Especially when I work with watercolor, it's very unpredictable. So every time I see little changes when the color spreads or when the colors kind of like overlap and interact with each other, it gives me a lot of little surprises and it gives me new ideas. I want my art to bring joy to other people as well and give them a new way of looking at the world. When I do my illustrations, my illustration kind of captures little moments in life or another way of thinking. So I wish that when people look at my art, they are inspired to appreciate the little things in life as well. I actually work with a lot of different mediums. So I would say I'm a pretty interdisciplinary artist. So watercolor is my favorite medium because of how loose and unpredictable it is. But I also work with like pastels, sculptures, photography, especially like traditional photography where I use the film camera and I would play with different colored films and try to process different effects. I also work with sculptures and kind of like found materials, as well as animation, like traditional animation. So I'm pretty loose with what I use. I just try a bunch of things. So I think that's different depending on what I make. So for children's book illustration, I first come up with a story, or sometimes it's not a story. It's kind of like a thought or like a quote that I think of. And from there, I start with sketches in my sketchbook. I come up with certain characters or certain movements and landscape. And then I create storyboards. And then I will later turn that into illustration pages. For more fine art things, I think I'm more intuitive. So I'm more intuitive. So I kind of follow the feeling instead of trying to consciously control everything. So my process is very loose, and I often start with nothing, just a blank canvas, and then I just kind of go ahead and make a mark, and based on that mark, I kind of respond to it and make more marks and kind of slowly lead the painting into a direction. So it's kind of like writing a story. Sometimes the author himself don't know the ending to the story. It's as the story is going, and slowly it kind of leads itself to the destination. So it's kind of like unpredictable, like that. I think I still really like paper, watercolor paper, just because of how much easier it is to control. It's easier to move around, and it's easier to make the paper, easier to make the paint bleed into the paper or overlap to create like a collage effect. I find that with canvas, it's not very easy to take on all the materials. Like when I want to layer with pencils or pastels, the rough texture of the canvas is a little bit harder to do. But currently I'm exploring a new way of working on canvas by using different canvas grounds to change the property of the canvas so it can take on more materials. So I'm still working with that. Sometimes the name just comes to me. Like when I look at the painting, just like a name just popped up in my mind and it kind of just works just right. Sometimes if the artwork is related to a story, then the name is inspired by the meaning of the story. So it depends. Yeah, so as you can see, like my style is very different, right? It always changes, and depending on the type of stories I'm trying to tell, and also depends on the materials I use. Like when I was working with watercolor, I like to go for more abstract, soft, kind of like abstract, soft style. But when I'm working with acrylic, I really like that really bright and pop and flat, a little bit like street art kind of style. But when I'm working with children's book, using like pencil crayons or like gouache, I go for more playful, childish, like childlike kind of style. So it really depends on the type of story I'm trying to tell. For this current exhibition, I'm really proud of this painting because I created the painting after a lot of trials and errors. So I mentioned before that I was really trying to get the watercolor effect on canvas, but keep failing because canvas has that layer of material that resists water. So it's really difficult for it to take the paint in and really get it to soak in. So I was trying different kind of watercolor grounds. I was trying different kind of solutions to make that effect. And this is one of the only case that actually worked out. I had a lot of failed cases before this piece. So I'm pretty proud of this one. So color-wise, I am a big fan of Henri Matisse. I really like his really bright, vibrant colors. I also really like René Magritte. Like overall, like I really like surrealism because of the way, the really dreamlike feeling of a painting. But especially with Magritte, he is an expert of taking something ordinary and making it magical. One of my favorite paintings by Magritte is called The Listening Room. So it shows a room with a big, gigantic apple. But then that makes people wonder if the apple is big or the room is too small. And it makes me wonder why it's called The Listening Room, because who's listening to who in the painting? So just with an ordinary apple, he's able to create a sense of magic and mystery, and it evokes questions in the viewers. And I think that's very wonderful and something I kind of want to achieve with my art as well. So he's definitely one of the bigger inspiration. I also like Dr. Seuss and his very whimsical, creative, kind of like wonky art. And also for illustration, I really like Shantan. I remember like reading his book when I first immigrated to Canada. He drew this book called The Arrival, and it is a wordless illustration, but just through the image itself, he is able to evoke the whole narrative and evoke a lot of emotions into me. And I think that's very amazing. and he's someone that I want to continue to learn from. I think social media can be a good platform for advertising your art and presenting yourself to the world. I see a lot of artists on social media promoting their art so that more people can see it. But social media can also be misleading because sometimes I see a beautiful artwork and rarely anybody liked it as compared to something that I didn't think is that good, but it received a lot of likes. So I think it's not really the place to judge the quality of art because so many people have different opinions and it could be influenced by so many things, but it is a good platform to put yourself out there. I think it depends on how you define art. If you simply define art as a way of expression, then meme is art. But my definition of art is more like art is something that the artists bring from within themselves. Like their thoughts, their feelings, they project their ideas or their vision of the world onto whatever materials they choose. And it comes from within them, and that's what I consider art. But for memes, memes is based on imitation. Like you take an image that already exists, you add a text to it, and it takes on a new meaning. Or you do certain action, and people imitate that action in a similar way. And I don't really consider imitation to be art. I think imitation is more a parody or another way of expression, but I kind of don't see it as art. AI art. It's this question again. Nowadays, like when I go on Instagram, I see a lot of criticisms. Saying AI art is gonna kill real artists, or AI art is gonna take over and make artists lose their jobs. I think those are reasonable concerns, because if the AIs can do anything, then they could replace artists. But I think what AI cannot replace is original thoughts, because AI takes things that already exist and change it up to something new. But it's still a computer. It cannot replace the creativity of the artist. So I think that AI could be an inspiration for artists, but yeah, there are those problems I mentioned. And I'm also concerned about the issue of plagiarism, because if the AI, for example, takes your art style and change it to make their own, then isn't it the same thing as plagiarizing your style or plagiarizing your art? So I think there should be a level of regulation involved in AI art to protect the artist's intellectual property. Yeah, that's what I think. I think I definitely want to become like the type of artist that can get her work out there all over the world. So my dream is to have exhibitions all over the world and to get invited to do different creative workshops all over the world. So I can meet different people that all have a passion for art, and we can create awesome things together. Ideally, I want to have the time to make art and have the time to interact, to educate, and to create with other people.